Police broke their 6-week silence today and finally outlined what they believe happened to the Shermans at their Toronto home.
Honey and Barry Sherman were found deceased in the lower level pool area, hanging by belts from a poolside railing in a semi-seated position.
That pool is pictured here on the Shermans' real estate listing. Their home was up for sale, and many people had access to a key through the lockbox. Those are some of the people police are talking to because there was no sign of a forced entry. Police say they've interviewed 127 people, combed through the couple's 3-story home, and they have thousands of hours worth of security camera footage from neighbors. Police also seized computers from Barry Sherman's offices, and yet
we haven't developed any suspects outside of understanding that people are outstanding for, or a person is outstanding for this offense.
The couple was loved by many. They had high-profile friends. They also donated millions to charities. Barry Sherman was known for battles in the courts over the years as founder of the multi-billion-dollar generic drug company Apotex. But as for why someone would want to kill the couple,
I'm not going to discuss any motives.
Friends, just like the Sherman family, were sure from the start this was a double murder.
I don't think very many people believed in the rumor that was never substantiated, but of murder-suicide.
The couple's friend, Paul Godfrey, owns a condo in the same complex in Florida as the Shermans. Police confirmed today they also searched that Sherman residence. Longtime friend Murray Rubin had hoped for more answers.
I was disappointed. I'm looking for somebody to be involved to a point where they have a person that they're looking into.
He also says he misses his friend.
I miss him every day. I miss him all the time. I think about him all the time.
Today, police officially handed over the property to the Sherman family. Now, for the first time, their private investigators will get their chance to search the home. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
The family released this brief statement today. This conclusion was expressed by the family from the outset and is consistent with the findings of the independent autopsy and investigation. The family continues to support the Toronto Police Services in their efforts to seek justice for their parents and pursue those responsible for these unspeakable crimes. There was a question for police at the news conference. Why are police now saying murder when murder-suicide seemed to be floated so early on? Here was the response.
I've been the officer in charge of this investigation from the moments that it occurred, or certainly when we got contacted, and I don't know where that came from.
So where did that notion come from? How did the family and police get so far apart so fast? It all seemed to happen in the first 36 hours. 11:44 a.m., December 15th, Toronto police get the call. It's understood to have come from the Shermans' real estate agent handling the house sale. The agent was also a family friend. Police send out a tweet. 2 people found deceased in a home. Word that those people were Barry and Honey Sherman spread fast. The couple was last seen on the 13th. A source close to the case told CBC Honey Sherman was still wearing the clothes she'd had on 2 days earlier. CBC has also learned she appeared to have been bloodied and injured before she died. 4:30 p.m. December 15th, the police first speak to the media.
The circumstances of their death appear suspicious.
But other than not dying of natural causes, what did suspicious mean? 8 p.m., another statement from police. It was not at all alarming.
We did not observe any signs of forced entry to the building, and so at this point, indications are that we have no outstanding suspect to be going after.
That's not directly saying murder-suicide, but it certainly left the impression police were thinking about that. No appearance of an urgent search for killers who might be on the loose. The next day, December 16th, media reports quoting unnamed sources within the police floated the murder-suicide theory. CBC has learned it was the Saturday morning the Sherman children reached out to private investigators who would later have access to crime scene photos and a second autopsy. Less than 24 hours after their parents' bodies were found, they were already furious with police. 4:14 p.m. December 16th, they released this statement. were shocked and think it's irresponsible that police sources have reportedly advised the media of a theory which neither their family, their friends, nor their colleagues believed to be true. The family was clear. The Shermans had been killed. It would be at least another day before the homicide squad took the lead. Now, 6 weeks after the bodies were found, the police publicly say they agree the Shermans were murdered. So on the one hand, Barry Sherman was a billionaire philanthropist described lovingly by family and friends. On the other, he was the head of a drug company who picked more than a few fights, which is why we've brought in Harvey Kishore, producer with the Fifth Estate. Harvey, I know that you're investigating the Sherman story for a fifth documentary coming up soon, and that the fact that he and his company were so litigious plays a big part of it.
Extremely important part. We know in federal court alone that there were more lawsuits involving Barry Sherman and his competition than anybody else in Canada. You know, one of my sources told me that one of the strategies of Barry Sherman was to get all the law firms here in Toronto locked up so the competition couldn't have those good law firms. So we talked to investigative journalist Jeffrey Robinson, who talked to us about the cutthroat nature of the pharmaceutical industry, and here's a clip.
He was the biggest and the most successful and had made a lot of enemies and was extremely litigious and was continuing to be so, didn't care about making friends, didn't care about making peace with anybody. He was going to win at all costs.
Okay, so he's describing someone who's a successful businessman, very aggressive about protecting his business.
Right.
All kind of understandable. None of this seems to explain a motive for trying to kill him, though.
No, and let's be clear, these were pillars of the community. They contributed millions to charity. They were well-liked and admired and respected in the community. But we do know in the pharmaceutical industry, it got personal. And for example, there was a name brand company in Europe that actually discussed putting him in compromising positions, planting cocaine on him, compromising sexual positions, that kind of thing. And when that didn't work, they actually hired spies to go to the picnic tables at Apotex, dress up as workers, and talk to employees to try and get dirt on Barry Sherman.
Was he ever afraid? Did you get that sense?
Well, we do know that Apotex once said that Barry Sherman did get death threats. And when he talked to investigative journalist Jeffrey Robinson, he actually did sort of say, I do wonder why no one has actually, whacked me. That, whether he said it jokingly or on a serious, he did think about whether he could have been killed in the work that he was doing.
He, in his paranoia, wondered if maybe somebody should have knocked him off by now, because that would have ended the whole problem for the other side. And he said something like, for $1,000, he said, for $1,000, you can probably get somebody killed. But the way he said it didn't set off alarm bells.
And yet here we are.
Yeah. And we don't know what motives the police might suspect of whoever did this. What we do know is that Barry Sherman did collect a list of enemies that were quite extensive.
What a shame. Okay, Harvey Kishore, thanks very much. Your documentary airs next week on the Fifth Estate.
That's right.
Meanwhile, there's been a change in leadership at the company Barry Sherman built. Jeremy Desai resigned as president and CEO of Apotex Pharmaceuticals today in the midst of a lawsuit filed by a competing company. That suit alleges he acquired trade secrets from one of their employees.